The great day approached. The sliding doors between the dining room and living rooms had been opened wide, and the stage set constructed in the dining room. The Melendys had to eat the last few meals before the play in the kitchen, standing up, too, or perched on tables, because all the chairs in the house were now arranged in rows in the living room. Would there be enough of them? That was the question. The armchairs were grouped together at the back like a family of bears. The dining room chairs stood in a righteous and unyielding row in the middle, and beside them the three Melendy rockers tipped jovially at different angles, like rowdy people laughing, splitting their sides at some secret joke. In front of these there was a strange assortment, kitchen chairs and odd upstairs ones, and the big couch and the little yellow brocade love seat. Old and young, spare and fat, in a sort of Memorial Day parade. At the very front were Oliver's two small chairs, all the footstools in the house, and some packing boxes somberly draped in steamer rugs. These were for the littlest children in the audience. Side by side waited the chairs, transfixed, struck dumb before the beauty of the stage set confronting them. Rush and Willie had built the backdrop out of beaver board, and Randy had painted it. A lonely forest scene, dozens of pale blue tree trunks and showers of blue leaves. At the right, an opening among them disclosed the misty pinnacles of a castle. On the floor, the old green rug from Father's study was arranged in mossy folds, and soft blue cheesecloth curtains hung at either side of the wide door. The girls had dyed the cheesecloth themselves, and their blue hands had horrified people for days afterward. Randy kept wandering into the living room, sinking first into one chair and then into another, regarding with awe the beauty of her handiwork. And this was only the first set, too. Think of that. Behind the forest scene there was the interior of the palace, with a tapestry painted on its wall, and a window containing a piece of cloud, and a sun with as many petals as a daisy. A throne went with that one, made out of Father's old Morris chair and a bedspread. And then there was the night scene. It was the best of all. Against its dark background were gold and silver constellations, fire-tailed comets, Saturn poised with his rings, and a moon as big as a bicycle wheel. And the magic thing, the really super thing about it, was that it was painted with phosphorescent paint. At a given signal, Willie was to turn off the lights, and the audience would find themselves gazing at a moon and stars that glowed in the darkness with a green, unearthly light. Oh, it was almost too much. They had never staged a production so beautifully before. Maybe we should have charged $1 after all, thought Randy. Yes, and the costumes. Mrs. Oliphant's sequins and gold lame added an Arabian Nights opulence to them. Mona was going to look wonderful in her splendid robes, a real princess. You couldn't believe it, looking at her now. She was wearing her oldest sweater and skirt, and her hair was wound up on dozens of little metal curlers. I'm going to leave them on all day and sleep in them all night, and only take them off just before the performance tomorrow, she said. You'll have a mighty sore scalp, Cuffy warned her. It'll be worth it, Mona said in an exalted voice. Anything's worth it, if my hair just curls enough. All for art, remarked Rush. He was trying on the mustache he had made out of a dime-store hair switch, which he had to wear as Baron Hackensack. He played two roles, that of the villain and that of the hero. It made it difficult, since both could never be on stage at the same time. The prince was forced to cry, "Hark, I hear Hackensack and his odious henchman, Oliver, approaching. He shall not find me here." Or Hackensack muttered, "Yonder goes Paragon the prince. Take cover, men. This is not the moment for our reckoning." And in the end, the battle to the death between Hackensack and the prince had of necessity to take place behind the scenes, with Willie clashing the carving knife against a pot lid, and Rush uttering the dying groans of Hackensack as he ripped off the black mustache and crimson mantle, Mrs. Oliphant's petticoat, of the villain, and replaced the velvet doublet, Mrs. Oliphant's basque, and jeweled crown of the hero. It was during this final scene that Willie turned out the lights and the phosphorescent moon was revealed. Everything had to be done very fast and with perfect coordination, like juggling, and by the time of the dress rehearsal they were all pretty good at it. The next morning was strange as a dream. Randy couldn't eat her breakfast. Her stomach felt queer and unfriendly. Mona, her head still bristling, as Rush said, like artillery in ambush, wandered about the house, her lips moving as she whispered her lines. She looked pale and frightened, but everyone knew that when the time came she would suddenly blossom, come to life like a rose, and make the part of the princess into something fascinating and important. Rush pretended to be perfectly calm. Perhaps he really was. You couldn't tell with him. And Oliver? Well, Oliver just quietly went away from it all and retired to his cellar room with a box of toy battle equipment and some apples. He knew what was best for him.